In this video, we'll be taking a look at how to set up a static website that uses HTTPS and has its own domain. I'm not going to go through the steps that I've done for the setup because I frankly don't have enough time, but I'll highlight some of the things that might cause you guys issues that I encountered. So if you want to maybe watch another video or try it yourself, and then come back to this video when stuff's not working, then that would probably be best. So essentially what you want to do is you want to set up two buckets. So the buckets will have to match your domain. So for example, I got a domain for CoreyJMacklin.com, and so I'm going to make a bucket for that, and I'm also going to make a bucket for www. That domain. And what you're going to want to do is, and you can watch some of my other videos, but I'm using Gatsby for the site. And essentially, once you run your yarn build or whatever, it will output some files somewhere. And in the case of Gatsby, it's in our public directory. And what you would do is you would upload these files to your www.CoreyJMacklin or your domain's bucket. Okay, and then you're going to go under properties and you're going to hit static website hosting, and you're going to host using your index.html. The other thing you're going to want to make sure you do is to change the bucket policy so that people are able to read from it. Okay, and it's also really important that you guys put the code under the www one and not the CoreyJMacklin one or the one without the W's, because when you enter your URL, you want it to add the W's and not the other way around. And so in your bucket without the W's, you're under properties, you're going to set it to redirect to the domain with the W's, and you're going to allow HTTPS or HTTP. That's important for later. And then you're also going to want to give public read access to this bucket. Okay, now the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to CloudFront. So CloudFront is a CDN service. Essentially, it will propagate or it will serve your website from different data centers throughout the world. And it's important to use CloudFront because it's the only way to set up SSL certificates. So as you can see right here, I have the lock with my website. So you wouldn't be able to do that just using the static website hosting. And so there's three important things to take a look at here. So when you set it up, there's going to be your domain name. So this is really important. It'll be .cloudfront.net. And also the origin. So when you go to set up your distribution, you're going to want to make sure that you make the origin the path to your S3 bucket. So if we go back to our S3 bucket, right, if we go to properties, static website hosting, you're going to want to set it to this. Okay, and it's the same thing for the other one. So again, you're going to need two, right? So one for your www.domain and then one without. And then you're also going to want to make sure you set the CNAMEs to the domains as well. And after you do that, you're going to have to wait until it says deployed. Okay, so once it has the deployed status, what you're going to do is you're going to go to Route 53, and if you haven't gotten a domain yet, it should have prompted you while you were creating your CloudFront one, but you can go ahead and buy one here. It's about $12 a year, I believe. And anyway, so once you do that, it should automatically create 2 records. The first one being your name server, okay, and then the second one being your start of authority. So start of authority, you don't really have to worry about. Name server, if you just created this right away, they should be in sync, but for me, because I had the domain before and then I had created a new website, these values right here in the name server did not match the ones for my registered domain. So under the registered domain, you have to make sure that these 4 right here are the exact same to your name server, okay? So that's really, really important. And then we have 3 other values here. This one is also very important. So again, while you were creating your CloudFront distribution, it should have prompted you, but in the case it didn't. So if you go under Certificate Manager, you have your certificate right here, and then right here, the button's grayed out for me. Hopefully it won't be for you guys, but essentially you're going to create a CNAME with the value specified right here, and then the name, which is the extension of our domain. So you're going to want to make sure that's set. And then the last 2, which are the most important, are your A records. And these are what are actually going to map the domain to the IP addresses or the endpoints. And you'll notice right here that, the name is the domain without the 3 W's. And then you're going to say yes to alias, and then the alias is going to be the CloudFront URL. Okay, so if we go back to CloudFront, it's this guy right here, the domain name. Okay, and it's going to be the same for both. So we go back here. So for our www, it's a CloudFront one as well. Okay, and the last thing I want to touch on is the continuous integration. So this means setting it up so that whenever you push to a Git repository, it will automatically update the website. So it will upload the files to an S3 bucket. And the service you're going to use for that is CodeBuild. Right, so I have a build right here. And so under project configurations, you just have the name. That's not that important. Under source, you're going to, it's up to you guys really, but I use GitHub. So you're going to want to link your GitHub account, and then it will automatically create a service role for you, so you shouldn't have to change that. And then you're going to want to specify rebuild every time it detects a code change. Environment, if you need specific environment variables, like you have passwords that you don't want on your actual website, which is a good idea. You can use that. I don't. So build spec is really important. So if we go, so if we look for the build spec here, and you can look at the documentation for this, but essentially it will tell the code build service how to behave. And so essentially what code build is doing And I don't know if I can show you guys this. It might be under artifacts. No, it's not. Okay, well, anyways, it'll essentially like create an instance, and then it will run certain commands. So, for example, here in the pre-build phase, really this should be the install phase, but we're gonna install all the packages, because when you go to, if you're using Gatsby, for example, you need to have Gatsby and all of its dependencies installed before actually spitting out the build. And of course we're running the build, and then this is really important here, is that you're going to specify the base directory as the output directory from your build. So sometimes it's dist, depending on what library you're using, and then you're going to want to specify all the files within that output directory. And then the last thing that really tricked me up was, so you're going to specify S3, and then you're going to specify your bucket name. That's all good. Right here, this is really important. So here it says optional, but if you don't specify anything, it will create a directory in your S3 bucket, and it will put the files in there. But really we need the files to be in the root directory so that they're served. And so you're going to make sure that you put a / here to tell it, no, I want the directories in the, like, directly, or I want the files directly in the bucket. And obviously we don't want to zip it up, so you're going to say none. This is also really important. So if you get some kind of error message, it's because you didn't disable encryption. So if you leave that on, people won't be able to visit your website because the files will be encrypted. And yeah, that's about it. So if it worked, when you push to your Git repo, you should see something like this saying succeeded, and then it should update your website. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, make sure to like it and subscribe.